The word robot was coined by a Czech playwright in 1921. His name is Karl Čapek. But really, people have been engaged in creating robots, well, really for thousands of years. And I looked into this and discovered that Leonardo da Vinci came up with a sketch in 1495. It was a mechanical soldier. I don't know how many of you know about it, but apparently it could sit up and move its arms and legs, and it's so considered the first plans, actually sketch plans for a humanoid robot. And the popularity of robots in fiction suggests that we're already acclimatized to the idea and really comfortable already at the thought of having these machines one day among us, first as helpers, but who knows, eventually as companions. I can tell you this, in South Korea, the Ministry of Information and Communication hopes to have a robot in every home by the year 2013. And Japan, for example, sees them as some kind of solution to an impending labor shortage as their population continues to age. So to kick off this section on artificial intelligence and kind of help set the scene for us, we have a speaker, Ryan Adams, who is here also as an example of the kind of work that CFAR does. If you look at the page, it's 61. You'll see the CFAR logo at the bottom. That's the Canadian Institute for Advanced Research. We have a deal with them. They distribute money to the most interesting researchers in Canada and abroad. In that sense, they kind of filter the availabilities out there. I think of the relationship as if they're the kind of research operation. They do the really hard work, the digging, the funding, and then we publish the results. We bring forward some of their more interesting contributors. So with that introduction, I'd like to bring Ryan Adams up here, who is trying to build machines that think. Ryan?
So in these utopian technological futures, Armageddon, of course, notwithstanding, we often imagine that we're going to have helper robots, that these things are going to, do kind of trivial things, clean for us, make coffee for us, things like that. But in light of the very profound and moving discussion of issues in the developing world yesterday, I want to draw your attention to one thing that I think is very related to robots, and is something that inspires me to work in this field, which is that there are on the order of about 100 million landmines in various parts of formerly war-torn areas in the world. And thousands of children are maimed or killed every year from these things. And robots are a really fascinating way to potentially deal with this going forward, because of course we can expend any number of robots, and if we save any children in this way, then it doesn't matter how many robots we throw at that. If they can go out and either blow up these landmines or find them and destroy them, then that's a big win and something that we should easily be able to do, or it should be on the horizon. But regardless of whether or not we want our robots to make coffee for us, clean up for us, or to go out and find landmines, one thing that's really important is that we need our robots to be able to see. Vision is a big part of the way that we interact with our world. And realistically, robots, if they're going to interact in our world and interact with us, are going to need to be able to have significant vision systems. And so what I'm going to tell you about is why robots right now can't see. And the way I'm going to tell you about this is I'm going to give you some lessons from human vision. So actually, most of this is going to be about interesting aspects of your own visual system that maybe you didn't know about, and how these things differ from the way that we typically think about approaching something like making robots see. So here's a question. How big is your fovea? If we, for example, we're looking at a scene like this, so your basic kind of backyard scene, how much of this are we seeing in high resolution, you might wonder? And okay, maybe it's something like this. Maybe we're seeing kind of the people, the salient features in the image, we're seeing those in high resolution and everything else is kind of blurry. Or maybe it's a little bit smaller. Maybe you're looking at this wet dog down here. Or maybe you're really zoomed in on the dog, and that's all you're seeing. And the remarkable answer is it's actually even smaller than this. And so I want everybody to do this. Stick your arm out, put your thumb up, like, hey, I love Ideacity. Great talk, Ryan. And, and I want you to look at your thumbnail. That's about how big your fovea is. That's about how much high acuity vision you have. And of course, you still see the other places, but that's how much high resolution imaging you're really getting through your eye. And it's remarkable to think that what you're doing is you're stitching together these many disparate patches of image data to create the perception of a rich world in which you're seeing everything. So I find that pretty remarkable, but it leads us straight to lesson 2, which is that even given that you're only seeing this little fovea, this little region of high acuity, you're actually looking at even less than you think you are. So I really like these pictures a lot. So on the left here, we have just a face of a woman. And on the right, what you're seeing are tracks from someone using their eyes to look around this image. And what you'll notice is that this isn't very much how a computer would look at this. So you imagine the computers would just scan the image and find the interesting things. But of course, what a human does looking at this is make a quick scan, recognize that it's a face, and then immediately look at the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. Because of course, for interacting with people, what you need is to know who that person is. You need to know maybe what they're thinking about, what their emotions are. These are the things that are really relevant to interacting with other people. And so you don't need to know exactly the placement of every little hair on her head. You just maybe want to know who she is. And your visual system does that without you even thinking about it. It just immediately causes you move your eyes all around without conscious effort. And that leads me to lesson 3, which I think is absolutely fantastic, and which is the fact that when your eyes are moving, when you're scanning all around that image, so if you look at the little spots where you're fixating, and then there are these tracks between them, during those tracks, when you're moving your eyes, you're blind. Let me just say that again. When you're moving your eyes, you are blind, and you're moving your eyes all the time, and you don't perceive this at all. It's a really remarkable thing, and such that I know that you don't believe me. Because of course you don't perceive that you're just having these flashes where your brain is cut off from visual information. So we're going to do an experiment. Everybody has their mirrors. The mirrors are for my talk. So you need a partner. So Moses is going to be my partner. I want you to look deep into your partner's eyes. Well, sort of. What I want you to do is get face to face with your partner. And let me show you what I have in mind here. This is a friend of mine who volunteered for this video. What I want you to do is look around your partner's eyes. So what you're doing is moving your eyes around, looking at their own eyes. So kind of looking around, moving your eyes, looking at the other person. So it's important to really move your eyes and look around. Now you're seeing the other person's eyes moving, right? Right? You can see the other person. We call this foveating, looking around. Yeah? Come on now. You're seeing the other person's eyes moving, yeah?
Right.
Okay. Now, take your mirror and do it to yourself. Hopefully this will work and you can see yourself in these mirrors. With the mirror. Are you seeing your own eyes moving? No, you're not, are you? That's because you can't. Because when your eyes are moving, you're not getting any visual information. So you can see the other person's eyes moving. You can't see your own eyes moving. You believe me now? Okay. But it's remarkable. It's remarkable how different this is from your perception. You know, so we think of this world where we're seeing everything, and it turns out that we're blind all this time as we're looking around. Lesson 4: you are not as perceptive as you think you are. You know, we imagine that we see everything. I am the master of my domain. I know everything that's going on around me. And of course, our justice system is built in a lot of ways around this concept of an eyewitness, that if you see something, it must have happened, right? You definitely perceived everything. Well, what we're going to do is a couple more little experiments. And these are due to Ronald Rinsink at UBC, who made these images. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you some images. And there's going to be 2 different images, and there's going to be a significant difference between them. And I'm going to flip back and forth between them. And when you can see the difference between them, I want you to raise your hand. If you've seen these images before, don't say anything to anyone. But I want you to raise your hand when you can identify the difference between these. And hopefully it'll work in this big auditorium. Can anybody see it? You see the difference? I promise it is huge. There we go. Slowly. Come on, we only have like 8 minutes left, so you better, okay. Here's what it is. Big difference, right? You'd notice if you didn't have that on your plane. Okay, maybe that was just a fluke. Let's do another one. Raise your hand when we see it. A little faster. Good. Still coming. Come on. No? This is huge. This is really big. Okay, here we go. I'll show it to you this way. Yeah. We'll do one more. This one took me a long time. Good. Not seeing it? Okay, here we go. That's pretty good. Okay. So the point is, though, that you're not perceiving this whole image, that you're looking around in a very specific way, and something extremely salient by any reasonable measure is there, and you're not seeing it at all. Now, lesson 5 is that depth information is important. Now, this is a fairly obvious thing because we live in a three-dimensional world, and we don't want to bump into things and whatnot. But what's remarkable is that stereo vision. So this is the information that your brain gets from having two eyes that have slightly different views on the world. It's called disparity. Allows you to reconstruct information about depth. But it turns out that that is not as important as you would think to perceiving depth. In fact, a very large proportion of the population, something like 2 or 3 rows here, can't actually do that. Their brains just don't do it. But these people can drive cars, they don't bump into walls, they can play soccer. This isn't something that many of the people who fall into this category actually are not aware of it at all. And so what's interesting is just how much information is available to you even just with one eye open and looking at the shading information and the relative sizes of things. And some machine learning researchers at Stanford really proved this point with this neat demo where what they've done is written a software program that takes single images and turns these into crude three-dimensional models. So this is just taking an image, and what they're going to do is make a three-dimensional shape, three-dimensional world that you can move around in a little bit. And so it's pretty remarkable what they can get out just from one image using shading information and depth information, information that's available just from the static image. So this kind of goes against my previous point that static images are what we need to move beyond, but I find this, it's an excuse to show this really cool demo. So let me just show you another one real fast. This is Paris, Las Vegas, I think. These guys at Stanford are doing amazing work. So I think that's really pretty fun. Whoops. Okay. Well, anyway, so these are the lessons that I think are really important that we should take away from human vision when we're trying to build these robotic systems. And I think the main point is that we have to get away from thinking in terms of static images, which is how we've really phrased the problem so far. And as a CFAR fellow here at U of T, this is the program that I hope to pursue, to incorporate this active vision, looking around the image, and trying to motivate building robotics very heavily with biological vision. So I really look forward to the next couple of years here in Toronto. And my fellowship ends in May 2012. It's kind of weird. Actually, yeah, so it turns out technologists like me are the reason that the world is ending, actually. And sorry. Thank you very much.
Well done.